What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be working on the GTO. I really want to get this thing in primer. It's time to get it ready to get painted. Got a lot of other things to paint and detail up, so let's get to work. Alright, so if you've watched previous videos of the GTO, you know this is my 71 GTO convertible, one of 678 total convertibles made, including Judges, which they only made 17 of. It has a 400 automatic. It's fully restored underneath, everything, new floors, new suspension, wheels, brakes, pretty much everything, bodywork. It's pretty much at the stage now where it's got to get final primer and blocking and then start painting door jambs and painting up stuff to get the car ready for paint and then reassemble. In the previous video where I was working on the front bumper, I actually stripped it all down to bare. It's actually kind of like a rubber material. I stripped it all down to the bare rubber or urethane or whatever it is. And now I'm using that bumper repair stuff here. You can see it to fill in any little cracks and imperfections before primer. Here you can see I've already put some on and sanded. You can kind of see the cuts, it's filled them in. So I got spots there. I didn't film most of that because it's boring. I know that the GTO project might not be the most popular one on the channel, but it also needs to get done, and I could either not film it and or film it, so I'm filming. So some people like to watch the video, so that's awesome. So what I'm planning on doing today is I'm going to start taking apart this front section. I want to pull the fenders off so I can kind of go over them on the edges and all that and get them ready to reprime. I want to prime the fenders and the hood and the headlight buckets and the valence and like all that stuff. I want to prime separate from the car, like off the car, and then possibly even like start blocking that stuff. What I want to do is I want to paint like the door jambs, all these jambs here inside the fenders, door jambs, the window frame has to be painted. I kind of want to paint all that, pre-paint it first before the whole car itself gets painted, so those can be painted, fenders can be put back on, and then the whole car gets painted. So what I want to do is I want to just start taking off like this assembly and stuff, and then start painting that stuff. The hood hinges, as you can see, I already took the hood off and the hinges off. That stuff, the hinges can get painted and then like put aside in the house so they don't get scratched up. And yeah, we'll start getting going on this thing. All right, so here's a bunch of the pieces I pulled off. The hood latch, this brace for it, these brackets which hold the headlight buckets right here. So unfortunately, since, I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that it's been, you know, quite a few years since I sandblasted all this stuff when I first pulled the car apart. But as you can see, this stuff's been sitting in bare metal in the garage for quite a while, and there is some like rust spots coming back. So you can see a little bit here and there. Nothing too crazy, but I'll try. I got some like Scotch-Brite pads. I'll try cleaning it up with some Scotch-Brite. I might have to throw some of this stuff back in the sandblaster, give it a quick clean up before I paint it. But I'll try the Scotch-Brite pad, see what that does. Yeah, it's cleaning it up, but it's not really taking those rust off. I guess this would. I don't know if that'll rough up the metal too much. I think I'll just throw this stuff in the sandblaster, quickly give it a little clean up where it needs it, and get it ready for paint. Alright, so as you can see, I got a bunch of the parts hung up. Like I said, I just lightly went over it with the sandblaster, clean up any little bits of rust. I already primered this piece here, a little bit of this duplicate primer sealer. So yeah, we'll just give everything a light coat of primer and then paint it. Some of these parts had a decent amount of surface rust on them. Down here, I don't know if you can see it, but down here it's pretty pitted up, but I'm definitely not gonna body work any of that. the hood latch. Cleaned up really good. It's always best if you can hang up stuff like this from the ceiling or from whatever. It's going to give you a better job than trying to do it on a flat, laying it on a piece of cardboard, or especially when it's double-sided like this. Alright, so I have all those brackets and everything painted. I got that one hanging up over there. So now I'm going to let them dry, and then once they're dry, we'll start painting them black. But I'll probably put on like 3 coats in total, something like that. Make sure there's good coverage. Well, I'm going to paint the rest. I'll probably put a coat on, let it dry, and then probably put at least 1 more, maybe 2 more coats on, and then we'll see how it looks after. Alright, so that's after a couple coats. Everything looks pretty good overall. There was a few little spots that kind of just touched up on some of them. Here's the latch. Well, I assume the latch is probably supposed to be like CAD plated, but I'm not gonna, go crazy. These pieces here for the headlights, they definitely have quite a bit of pitting in them, but like I said before, I'm not really gonna worry about it. There's that one. I mean, this one you can probably see all the pitting here, but I'm not body working that stuff. So what I'm gonna do next, also I noticed, and I've kind of noticed this before about this, that I believe this is supposed to have 2 hood springs on it, one there and one there. But the car only ever had 1, but the hood is really heavy, so I think I'm gonna order a second one. They're really cheap, so I'm gonna probably get another one, but I painted this one, I painted the bolts that hold it on. The next thing I'm gonna do is I have a Reproduction battery tray here, so I'm gonna scuff it because I'm sure it just has like that E coat on it. So I'm gonna scuff that and I'm gonna paint it. I'm also gonna scuff these Goodmark hinges that I bought before. If you've seen a previous video when I fixed the hood to make it fit properly, I ordered these from Summit. They're really nice. I'll just do the same, scuff them, and give them a coat of paint. Alright, so I scuffed up that battery tray, gave her a quick coat. Probably put 1 more on there, and then that can go with the rest of the stuff, which I took in the house so they don't get scratched. So the next thing I'm going to do is scuff down these hood hinges. Now, if you watch that other video, I had a real pain time putting these springs on, but I also did it when it was on the car already, I believe. I don't know. Anyways, I have a plan on how to pull them off again. I was gonna just mask them, but I think it'd be better to pull them off. So let's pull these springs off. Hopefully this works out okay. So my plan, I think if I just put this part in the vise and then pull. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, that should. They're so tight, these springs. I don't know if it's because they're chromed or why I have such a hard time. There we go. Well, actually it wasn't too bad. And I'm just scared the spring's gonna shoot off and blow my face off. So that one's off. And same with this one. There we go. Perfect. And hopefully to put them back on, we can do something very similar. Maybe I'll clean these up a bit while they're off, and I'll get to scuffing these and giving them a paint job. First coat put on, and battery tray is drying. And then what I'm doing over here is I unbolted the transmission cooler. This is like a B&M transmission cooler. And I had welded these brackets on here that the cooler bolts to, but I never really finished welding them on here, so when I take this off, I will weld them nice, maybe with the TIG welder, weld them on good. And that's the mount for the trans cooler. And then the aluminum radiator. I also built these little pieces here because this one's a little smaller than the original, but I ended up drilling a hole in it, which I'm gonna have to fix because I was gonna mount the fans with some brackets, but I ended up welding the these little nubs to the top of the rad tanks here to mount these fans, which are from like a Intrepid. So my plan is to pull all this off. I'm gonna paint like this, and then once this is painted, it can kind of get reassembled for good. You know, radiator hoses, radiator in, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna pull that transmission cooler out of there, and then, oh, I also took these bumper brackets off. So these also need to get painted. Right here, I'll have to clean them up a little bit. Same thing, a little bit of surface rust from sitting. So I'm gonna pull that trans cooler off now. All right guys, so it's a couple days later now. I'm still working on the GTO. I got the other hood hinge painted, there it is. I also painted a couple bumper brackets. They went down in here, bolted to the frame. I took those in the house already, painted those up. So what I wanna do now, I'm gonna take the front fenders off next. But what I really want to do is I want to make like a fender stand for like primering and stuff. I have some of this rectangular tubing, so I think I'm going to cut that up and weld myself up a quick, basically just a stand that I can take the fender off the car and then hang the fender on there for painting and primering, and not really for like sanding or doing body work, but for primering and painting, so that in other words, how else would I hold it up, right? So we're gonna get doing that now. I got all the pieces cut up. So pretty much what it's gonna be is like one of these and one of these. So like set apart. And then one of these will get welded onto there like that. And then across the top, we'll get this one here will get welded across the top. So it'll pretty much be making like a hurdle, you know, like you would jump over in high school kind of deal. Something that the fender can sit on that'll be stable so it won't fall off. So next I'll set up the welder and we'll get welding this thing together. You can make it whatever size you want, height you want, size you want. I mean, I'm gonna weld the stands kind of, before I weld the top piece on, because maybe this will be too high and then I'll want to lower it down and I want to cut some off. But depending on your fender or whatever it is you want to hang, it might be longer, shorter, taller, higher. So this is kind of just a rough idea of how I'm going to do it, and you could do it very similar. I'm just going to take this, we're going to put it in the middle of this, try to make it somewhat square, and then we're just going to weld it on. So we'll start with a couple tacks, try to keep the squareness. Obviously we're not building a frame here, so it's just nice to have it not crooked. And there you go. So just a simple weld, and now it's a T-shaped stand. So now I'm going to make the other one exactly the same, and then I think I might end up cutting this down. This looks like it might be slightly too high, so, but I'll get the other one made and then we'll see. All right guys, so this is basically what I'm making here. I don't know, I'm trying to decide if that's too high. I mean, the height of the car, say, is here, quite a bit higher than, say, where the car is sitting right now. You can kind of compare. So I don't know if that would be good or if that's too high. I'm thinking I might cut off maybe this much, bring it down maybe 6 inches, and I think that should be good. See, the thing with this is you could also weld on some like hangers of some sort to hang like the doors on too if you need to, or whatever, right, for painting the backside or anything like that, or for painting the outside. So I want to make it so that it's kind of like can be modified. I mean, when I don't need them anymore, I'll just cut it up in pieces and whatever, right? So, But I think I'll cut this, I think I'll take about 6 inches off each side and then weld this top piece on. All right guys, so there it is. Pretty easy, pretty simple. And like I said, I shot a coat of silver paint on it just so it has some paint on it, doesn't rust. But like I said, I could grind off some spots. I could weld little tabs on here, maybe to hang the front bumper. Even I could use this to hang parts from, you know, use like, could use one of these and drill a couple holes, hang it, and be able to paint your parts on. So for whatever you're doing, you could definitely make use of something like this in terms of painting things and whatnot and hanging stuff. And like I said, you probably could hang the fender on there and do body work or whatever. I don't know how sturdy it'll be. I mean, it feels pretty sturdy, you know, so I think overall it should be pretty good. Once the paint dries, I will pull this front fender off and we'll hang it on there and we'll see how it works. All right, so you can see I took the fender off the car and there it is on the stand. So it actually works out really good. Very sturdy. And like, see, I could make some little tabs here if I wanted to bolt it on. Same with there. If I wanted to like do body work and block sand it or anything like that on there to keep it from flopping around. But actually it's pretty good and sturdy just like this. So I think that's gonna work out really good. I might end up making a second one because, you know, if I want to have both fenders on the things to prime them or paint the jam part, you know, like this part and inside and all that kind of stuff, then I might need to make another one. But I do have a bunch more material and that was pretty simple to make. And yeah, I think that worked out really good. So now I just got to pull the other fender off. The rad support and the radiator and all that has to come off because this needs to get painted, cleaned up and painted. And then it can go back on kind of for good. And then same with the radiator and all that can get bolted on for good. We'll get on doing the primering and the blocking and the finishing of the fenders and getting them ready to paint. Got the radiator support out. There's only a couple bolts. These pieces right here, I made these pieces on both sides. This one actually, I guess I just welded it. Maybe I'll do a little body work there. And I also still have to weld this hole up. And now I see that I must have knocked the spot weld loose. It's flopping around there. So all that has to be kind of cleaned up and fixed. Then this can get painted and get bolted back on the car. And so here's what the car looks like with all this off. I'm just gonna leave that fender on for now so it's out of my way while I do stuff on this one and whatever. And then I'll end up pulling it off after. Thought I'd show you guys one thing here before we end the video, and that's I had made this bracket before right here to hold the transmission cooler lines. So what I'm going to do with it is paint it nice, probably to match the engine color, and then put rubber grommets, and then the lines will go through here on rubber grommets. I just figured it was a nice way to hold those braided lines. So yeah, I had made that a few years ago. Thought I'd show you that while you can see it, and also the chrome fuel pump and all the braided lines and whatnot. It has all braided line throughout. So anyways, that's going to be it for this one, guys. And the next one we'll continue working on that rad support and the fender and all the other stuff and get things going on this thing. So like always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. We'll check you later.